Okay, guys. Well, look, thanks again for showing up and appreciate it to another live training here on live Tuesday training here on the One Source Personal Development Network. So, today, hopefully, you're going to find interesting. This is a subject I find extremely interesting, actually, but it's going to be designed all around. Well, I guess creating an extraordinary life, because that's what we're all here to do at the end of the day. We're not here just to have an average life. We're not here. Well, some people might be at the very beginning, but the longer you're here, you're looking to go beyond. You're looking to create that extraordinary life that we all deserve, and it's all achievable for every one of us. So that's what I kind of want to put the focus on today: designing your life to make it extraordinary. Now, to me, and we all have our own definitions of what an extraordinary life would be, and it truly is. It's different for everybody out there. But for me personally, to me, it's more about life on my own terms. Being true to myself. I mean, obviously, you have to take other people into consideration. Your family and maybe some close friends, your partner, your spouses, your boyfriends, girlfriends, whatever, significant other, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, it should always come down to yourself. You take things into consideration, obviously, but to design what I would consider an extraordinary life, you really have to do it on your own terms, and you need to be true to yourself. So when I was doing research, for building and creating an extraordinary life, I was looking on YouTube and I came across a video, a Tony Robbins video, because obviously I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, as you all know. And it's a short video. It's only about 8 minutes, but it just reminded me what a valuable source that YouTube really is. There's so much information out there on, personal development, as far as different techniques, strategies, tools that you can use. And I would really encourage you to go ahead. I know everybody here listens to YouTube and they listen to different motivational videos and things, but take it to the next level. Don't just listen. Really break it down. Analyze. When you come across a good video, one that you like, don't just listen to it and think, "Oh yeah, that was nice. I like that. That was really good." Break it down. I'm going to show you an 8-minute video by Tony Robbins. And then what I want to do is I want to break it down, because in 8 minutes, there's so much information in this short little video that we can apply to not only our own lives, but also when working with clients, also working with prospects. Really some really powerful tools and useful knowledge that you can incorporate into your coaching practice. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to kick it off. Just do me a favor. I haven't played a video in a while, so let me know if there's any problems hearing it, but hopefully it should be okay.
Do you have anything is there something like that we can do for ourselves, for someone watching, if they find
Yes.
themselves, wow, I always seem to go into this funk, or I always seem to get myself into this state. Is there a way that we can break our own patterns that can be helpful?
There is. I think the first step is the awareness that it is a pattern, that it is not you. It's really hard to change yourself. It's easy to change a pattern. But when you've lived a pattern so often, we get the illusion that that's me, that I'm, a person that puts things off, I'm a procrastinator, or I'm, not aggressive, or whatever it is. And we have all these aspects of our life, some of which are more developed than others, but they're in there. So I think being aware of the pattern, its limit is step one. And then step two is breaking it. But people can break their pattern easily. They just don't, not only because they're in it, but because most people have never decided to say, I'm not going to tolerate this in myself anymore. So awareness is step one. Step two is raising the standard and going, this just isn't me. This is not what I stand for. This is not good for my kids. This is not good for my husband or wife. This is not good for the world. It's not good for me. And then putting a line in the sand that says, this ends here now. And then how to break your pattern. There's a million ways to break your pattern. I mean, all lasting change happens in an altered state. See, most of us think of hypnosis, like people say, you can't hypnotize me, and they're usually in a trance when they're telling me that. I don't hypnotize anybody, I de-hypnotize them. We've been hypnotized by our culture to settle for things. We've been hypnotized by our past to think of ourselves as being limited when we're not. And so what I really try to do is I alter people's state, because in an altered state, you'll do it. Just knowing, most of us know what doesn't work and what works. Most of us know when we're screwing up. Most of us know what we should do, but we don't do it. And the reason is because in that state of mind, you're not going to. If you want, I can go on a rant on what is my highest level mission right now.
Yes, please.
Okay. So for decades, my obsession has been, what makes the difference in people, right? Why do some people, you give them everything, love, joy, tremendous education, economic well-being, and they end up going in and out of rehab all day long? How many actors, actresses, wealthy people have you seen do this? It's sad. And then there are people that life has just beat the hell out of, right? People have gone through physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional, spiritual abuse. And many of those people, rather than being broken, become so hungry, so driven, because they don't want anybody else to experience that. I'm an example of that they become masterful in things, right? But along the way, I was like, okay, so what am I really about? I said, my real mission is to help people get what they really want and help them have what I would call, you might say, I want to lose weight, I want to make more money, I want to have a better relationship, but what people really want is an extraordinary life, a magnificent life, which to me is life on your terms. Not Tony's terms, not your friend's terms, not even your spouse's terms. Like, what is going to light you up in this life? And once people know what that is, you need two skills to get there. One I've taught for decades, the science of achievement. And you know me well enough, and I know you well enough, that we both have been obsessive about finding the strategies that can help people get the result they want faster than they ever have. And you're brilliant at it, and I'm really good at it, and we have a lot of friends that are really good at it. But most people can figure that out. We can help them do it faster. And I think that's a great service, and I love being able to do that. And I love knowing answers that can help people so quickly. But it's a science to achieve, meaning if you look around, and I wrote a book, I think about a year ago. I spent 4 years on it, and I wanted to answer the question, how do I help people financially in a world where most people are suffering, especially with the markets in turmoil? And I thought, I don't have those answers. I have some answers. The people with the best answers, ones you should go. If you want to achieve something, find somebody getting the result you want and model them. Success leaves clues. Go find out, right? My original teacher, Jim Rohn, taught me that. I never forgot it. So I went out and interviewed 50 of the smartest financial people in the world. Everybody from Warren Buffett, Carl Icahn, and I found the common patterns. If you live by these patterns, you'll have more than enough money. You may not be a billionaire, but you'll have more than enough money. If you violate these rules, the science, you're going to have too much money at the end of the money. You're going to be stressed out. Same thing with your body. We're all biochemically unique, but there are rules you and I both know scientifically that if we violate them, our energy drops. If we align, and we're going to have disease, if we align with them, high energy. So that's the science of achievement. Get there quicker. How do you do it? One, obsess about what you want, right? Focus on it continuously. Have so much emotion about it that you take massive action. Keep changing your approach. Model somebody really great. And then with some grace, take some grace too.
Yep.
Some call it luck, and some call it God. If you do the first 3 steps, that 4th step usually kicks you over. But the more important lesson, and the one that I'm obsessed by getting to people's minds, so I really appreciate me planting the seed with everybody, the one that'll change your life more is the art of fulfillment. And I say the art of fulfillment because what will turn you on, excite you, fulfill you is going to be different than this man here who I know is your friend behind the camera, and this beautiful lady here. It doesn't matter how close we are still are fulfilled by slightly different things. And so, what I really want is, I believe that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I really want people to be fulfilled even more so, because billionaires, that sounds ridiculous, but they're a dime a dozen. That's an exaggeration, meaning lots of people become billionaires. What's a hell of a lot more rare is someone who loves life every single day and stays happy when it doesn't go their way. There's nothing worse than an angry rich man, an angry rich woman. You want to slap them. It's like they have every benefit in life, but that's what the human mind does. The human brain is 2 million years old, and this is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive. And survival, it does it by fear. So what the brain does is looks for, what do I need to fight or flight from? And so it's always looking for what's wrong. And our minds can take us over unless your heart is what's running you. So what I try to do is show people how to shift that. Achievers don't think they have fear. Now, I've shared with you before, like, stress is the achiever word for fear. I'm never fearful, I'm just stressed. Well, if I follow your stress, it'll take me to your fear. So what I found is, I suffered because suffering, there's only 2 states you can live in, 2 types. Beautiful states of being. Happiness would be one. But if you just try to be happy all the time, it's not real. Right? If you know, some people smile so much their face hurts. It's a beautiful thing, but our nervous system needs variety in our nervous system. So think of it this way. Beautiful states could be awe. It could be love. It could be passion. It could be a courageous moment. It could be being driven. It could be happy. But in those states, no one has to tell you what to do, and you always treat yourself and others in the right way, and no one has to tell you to, because in that state, you just do the right thing in those states. The other states we can live in are suffering states. And I have a good friend named Krishnaji. I was in India with him. We were having a discussion. He goes, you talk about peak states and, lousy states. He goes, I look at those as suffering and beautiful states. And I was like, so suffering would be frustration, anger, overwhelm, stress, worry, loneliness, depression. There's a range of them. And I wasn't depressed, but I'd be, of course, pissed off or frustrated, overwhelmed at times. And that's part of life.
Right.
Here's what I believe today. That's not part of life. That's the mind. That if you don't manage it, you can have everyone loving you. You can have those beautiful family. You can have 20 Academy Awards. You can have all the money you could spend, and you're still going to be in pain. So my invitation to those viewers that are watching us, and to you as a dear friend,
yes,
is to raise the bar on what we call suffering so you see it for what it is, and to realize that you can free yourself from it. And it's not some ethereal, spiritual thing from India to do that. It's just, I think life is too short to suffer.
Okay, guys, so 8 minutes. And I tell you, there is a world of information in that 8 minutes. I really enjoyed this short video by Tony. I've been studying Tony since before I even moved to Ireland. So 23, 24 years minimum, probably about 25, quarter of a century at this stage. And I tell you, he packed a lot into that 8 minutes. But like I said earlier, it's one thing to just listen to it. It's another to really break it down and understand everything that he's saying there. And equally important, how does it apply to what we're doing? And how can we use it to not only incorporate and improve our own lives, but also the lives of others? So if you go back to what he was saying there, to go ahead and create an extraordinary life, as he says it, well, there's a couple steps. The first step, you have to raise awareness. You have to become very aware of the actions you're taking. Notice what's working, notice what's not. So is that something that we do? Is that something that we do with our clients, with ourselves, within our system? Well, definitely. If you're using the system properly, and you would have heard me talk about awareness many, many times, but awareness is one of the biggest benefits of our system. You become extremely aware of all the actions you're taking. You become very aware of what you're doing with your relationships, with your health, with your growth, what you're doing and what you're not doing, with your finances. So there's no question in my mind that if you're using the dashboard properly, you can't help but to become very aware. And it's a big part of your role as consultants, when working with prospects, when working with clients, when working with yourself. Because remember, we're all using the system as well, so we're more effective consultants. You have to identify patterns. Like looking at this is just a quick dashboard that I took a snippet from. But if you look there for like health and fitness under number 1, you'd have to notice that, okay, there's a pattern going on here in this short period of time. And there could be a logical explanation, but there's a pattern going on here. 3 days in this short space of time, there is primarily a lot of red there. What's going on? What's going on with that individual? Number two, okay, a lot of amber, more amber than green in a big portion of it, one white as well. But then you also notice here, under 3 and 4, really strong. They got good momentum going. But again, you'll identify patterns. You become very aware. So your role as a consultant is to make sure that the clients you're working with are very aware of their patterns. And it's really important. If you notice, he said in there as well, and he's so right. It's not you. It's your conditioning. It's your patterns of behavior. So, and that's really important that you understand that within yourself. You're not lazy. You're not a bad person. You're not a procrastinator. You're not, um, ignorant or whatever the case may be. It's you've been conditioned with certain things, and it's important that you make sure that your clients and your prospects always understand that as well. I like the way he talked about how, you know, changing people is difficult. Changing patterns is easy. And the first step to changing those patterns is the awareness of it. So I think everybody would agree that, our system of personal development is a very powerful tool for creating awareness, which is the first step, as Tony talks about there. But once you become aware, what do you have to do? Well, you need to break that pattern. It's no good just to be aware of it. You need to work with yourself. You need to work with those clients, those prospects that they're taking steps to break the pattern. And it's not going to happen overnight, dependent on what the situation, what the action is. It's not going to always happen overnight, but it's your job to support them. It's your job to make sure that they get enough leverage on themselves by linking up enough pain to break in the pattern and enough pleasure to break in the pattern. To take into positive action. But it all starts, he would have said, with doing what? Making that committed decision. Once you're aware, once you've identified the pattern and you're aware of the pattern, you've gotten some leverage on yourself. Well, you need to make a committed decision. You need to support that client, that prospect, to make a committed decision to break in the pattern. And again, that's going to come with, again, getting leverage. But your role, your responsibility, part of your obligation to the individuals you're working with is to support them to make that committed decision, to encourage them. And then you just need to have them draw a line in the sand. Don't worry about the past. Remember, it's not you. It was your pattern. It was your conditioning. But now that you're aware, it's time to draw a line in the sand, leave that behind, make a committed decision, and move forward. So, and again, your role, your responsibility, your obligation to those clients, if you want to create enough value, is to support them in that. Your life changes the moment you make that committed decision, as it says there. What's the second step? So if the first step is awareness, which I think we have pretty well covered in our system, the second step, raise your standards. And that comes from that 8-minute video. That's what he said. Step one was to go ahead, like if you break down that video, step one, raise your awareness. Next, step two, raise your standard. Now we've talked about standards many times, and it's 100% right. If you want to create lasting change, if you want to improve, if you want to create success in any of the areas, whether it be your relationships, your health, your growth, your finances, if you're not producing the results that you want, the only way to do it is to raise your standards. And how we always do it and how we encourage not only ourselves, but our consultants to go ahead and do it with the clients that they're working with is use the standard chart. You guys should all be very familiar with this standard chart. The standard chart is on every single dashboard. It's right next to the goals in the current section. But again, when you're goal setting with somebody, it's all based on their standards. So if somebody says to you, okay, I want to have a really good month. Well, looking at, on the individual key areas, a really good month, say for relationships, is a 0.75, or any of them, finance, whatever, is a 0.75. For your overall average, well, a really good month is a 3. But if they're consistently coming in at a lower standard and they want to go and they're telling you they want to do more, well, all you have to do is make sure that you work with them. You raise their goals, you raise their standards, you work with those individuals, you support them, you hold them accountable, and you make sure that you do everything within your power, including within yourself as well, to make sure that they live up to that standard. And it's important to note before we move away from the standard chart, the standard chart goes both ways. It can also basically, you could work with people and primarily they could say, oh, let's say for an example, you work with somebody and they came in at a 3.5 at the end of the month, overall average. Well, that says they have an amazing month. But what if they don't feel as if it was an amazing month? These are only numbers. They're all based on data. I did a lot of analysis to actually come up with these figures. But it's not going to suit everybody. Obviously, depending on what their standards are, it's going to vary from person to person. So if going back to that example of a 3.5, an overall average, if they don't feel as if it was amazing, that's fine. But what do you have to do? You've got to make it more difficult, or they have to make it more difficult for themselves to achieve that 3.5. And they're going to do that by adding more actions, making it more challenging to get those points. Because if it's getting too easy for them and they're just getting the points, but they're not getting the emotion that should be attached to it, that feeling like it was amazing, or it was a great month, or they did really good. Well, all that's telling you is that, well, the standard chart is right. You just need to make the actions a little bit more challenging to go ahead and hit those numbers, make it a little bit more challenging, a little bit more difficult to get that. So again, it goes both ways. You got to always remember that you should always be working with yourself and your clients, that at the end of the month, when you're doing their goal setting, when you're looking at what their average was, when you ask them the simple question, well, according to the chart, it says you did whatever really good this month. But do you feel that? Would you agree with that? Because if they don't, that's fine. It just means going forward, you need to make it more challenging. So he talked about, in addition to those 2 steps, as far as the awareness and raising your standards, to create an extraordinary life, you need to master some skills. And when he talks about it there, he talks about 2 skills specifically. He talks about the science of achievement and the art of fulfillment. Now, there's a difference between the two, obviously, but primarily when we talk about the science of achievement, well, the science of achievement, with science, well, there's laws, there's rules that need to be followed. Obviously, there's going to be some variations, and you can produce the same result taking different courses. but there's always laws in a science that if you break them, you're not going to be able to produce the result. So you have to make sure that it's always guided by the different laws. That's why he talks about, primarily the science of achievement. And by the way, Tony Robbins is not the first one to talk about, the science of achievement. People have been talking about the science of achievement for a long time. I mean, going back if you look at Napoleon Hill, he did the last several years of his life from, I believe, about it's somewhere in about the 1960s, mid 1960s until the early 70s when he passed. He was always going around, and he had his 17 universal principles of success, and he would do these talks, and it would be called the science of personal achievement. Before that, you go back all the way to the science of getting rich by Wallace Wattles. I don't know if you've ever read it or not. Truthfully, it's an interesting book, but it's an old book. It was actually came out before Think and Grow Rich. Actually, The Secret is really based on the science of getting rich. It's a lot to do with the law of attraction, but it has to do with certain actions. But there's a science to everything. There's a science, as Tony said, there's a science to wealth. There's a science to health. There's science to relationships. There's always a science behind where if you take certain actions, you're going to produce certain results. So that's what he means when he's talking about, the science of achievement. So, and with us, again, getting back to our system and how everything connects. Well, there's a science behind everything we do within our system. I mean, if you go back to lesson number 4, neuroassociative conditioning, the science of neuroassociative conditioning. Well, that's the science primarily of achievement. Primarily, if you want to produce a result, you have to follow the science. Everything within our system, from the dashboard to the accountability to the consistent action, it's all based on science. So I was really happy when I hear things like that, because I'm always looking for things that support what we're doing. Primarily reinforces that yes, this is fact, this works. It doesn't just work for us, it works for others doing similar things. But again, when he talks about the science of achievement, everything we're doing here on the One Source Personal Development Network, on our system, it's all based around science. So the art of fulfillment. So why doesn't he refer to art as a science? Well, very simple, because primarily art is always in the eye of the beholder. It's different for everybody. We all basically can look at certain things and get different emotions, different feelings, different views from it. So art is never going to, it's never going to affect two people the same way. And it's the same thing with fulfillment. What fulfills you may not fulfill me. We can do the exact same thing, follow the exact same rules, the exact same laws, and produce two completely different results. That's why it's referred to as the art of fulfillment. So when we talk about the art of fulfillment, again, we're talking about the things you have to master. We've already talked about the science of achievement. The science of achievement will definitely be accomplished through our system. But the art of fulfillment. So success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. I'm sure everybody listening out there, I know I have, I'm sure you've worked with people, I'm sure you've experienced it in your own life, where you work and you work and you work to achieve a result, a goal. And you go ahead and you get there, you achieve that goal, but yet you don't feel fulfilled. that's not a good place to be. As Tony Robbins says, it's the ultimate failure. Don't know if I totally agree with it being the ultimate failure, but I do know it hurts and it's not a nice feeling. And I know I've worked with a lot of clients, and I have to assume you probably have as well, but I've worked with a lot of clients where they set a goal either to achieve financially, health wise, or their relationships, their growth, whatever the case may be. And what happens is they get there, the time comes, but they don't feel fulfilled. So why is it that somebody can go ahead and they can achieve their goal and they don't produce that feeling, that emotion of fulfillment? And what do they do? What do you do with a client? What do you do with yourself when you go ahead and you achieve the result you were striving for, the goal that you set, but yet you just don't feel fulfilled? Well, to me, and not just to me, Tony Robbins, neuroassociative conditioning. If we look about the science behind our system, neuroassociative conditioning, we would have said, in order to be fulfilled, you have to meet the needs consistently. If you go back to that session, and I know everybody's probably aware of it, but if not, it's a good session to go back and review again. Session number 4, the science behind our system. We all have 6 basic human needs. And if you're taking action and you're producing results and you don't achieve that feeling of fulfillment, it's because at some level you're not meeting that need. So if we look at the 6 basic needs again, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I've already done a full session on this. We've talked about it a couple times already, a lot of information out there, but the only thing I'm going to say is, if you're not really comfortable with the 6 basic human needs, I encourage you to really learn them. Because they will become so valuable to you, with not only with yourself, but with your clients and your prospects as well. Because that's the one thing that's consistent with all humans. We all have these 6 basic human needs. The only difference between me, you, a client, a prospect, a man or woman you meet on the street, we all have those same basic human needs, but it's the level that we value those needs. I have some needs that I value only because of my conditioning, my experiences, much stronger than probably you do. And you have some different basic human needs that you value much stronger than I do. So that's the only difference, but we all have those needs. And when I'm talking about fulfillment and valuing the level that you value them, if you're meeting the need because you're taking the action, but you don't feel fulfilled, it's because you value that need at a higher level. You need to do more than anticipated in order to feel fulfilled, because there's always 1 or 2, sometimes 3 of the 6 basic needs that you value much higher than the others. So you could be meeting those needs to a sub level, but you haven't met them strong enough. That's why the client's not feeling fulfilled. That's why you're not being fulfilled. And it's really important that you get to know these 6 basic human needs very well, become very comfortable with them, because as you work with clients, as you work with prospects, you'll be able to identify which ones do they value most. Like, I guarantee you, if you guys spend any time with me at all, I know you spend time on these trainings, on calls, and most of you probably could. But if you really took a good look at those 6 basic human needs, you probably could guess which ones I value the highest out of the 6, the two that I value. And I'm pretty confident I could do the same for you. Anybody that I've worked with or spent any time with, as long as they're being open and honest and transparent, you can usually always identify which of the six that they value the most. And that right there, once you know that, that's good, that's going to help you to support them to make sure that they're meeting those needs at a higher level. So just to recap very quick, what are the six basic human needs? We all have that need for certainty and comfort. We all need to know that if we take certain actions, we're going to produce certain results. If we do certain things, this is going to happen. We need to have that level of certainty. So, and again, our system meets that need. We know that within the system, if we take certain actions, we're going to produce certain results, and it's going to be consistent. But we also have that need for variety, uncertainty. And again, using the system will always tick that box as well, because things change from day to day. There's 4 different areas. You got different people interaction. You're taking different actions, different activities, producing different results. There's always plenty of variety in there as well. Significance. Okay, significance, again, this one I always take a second to clarify. People, when they think about, significance, they think, oh, well, no, I'm that's egotistical or that's conceited. It's not about that. We all have a need for significance. The only problem is some people choose the wrong vehicle to meet that need. They make themselves significant by tearing down or putting other people down. That makes them feel better about themselves and makes them feel more significant. Or they talk down to people, or they boast themselves up to feel significant. Those are just ways that people are meeting a need. But again, they're just choosing a wrong vehicle. But again, our system will definitely, in a very positive light, a positive vehicle, make people feel significant. Connection and love. We all have that internal need to build lasting, loving, meaningful relationships with other individuals. So again, connection and love, it's one of the 6 basic human needs. And again, you're meeting that need using the system. Growth. We all have a need to grow, become more. We talk about this on a consistent basis. Our entire system is factored around growth. So again, that's a need that you can meet with our system. And the final one is contribution. We all have a need to not only grow, but we have a need to give. We have a need to basically give back, to contribute to other individuals, to contribute to society, to contribute to, the world as a whole. So, but again, we have the opportunity with our system, working with others, helping others, coaching, consulting with others. We have a need to, we have an opportunity to meet that need. So all the needs can be met in order to be fulfilled. But if the person is not feeling fulfilled, even though they've used the system, they've maybe they've fulfilled, some of that need, but it's most likely something that they value much higher than the other needs. So therefore, they need to meet that need at a higher level before they feel fulfilled. So hopefully that makes sense to you. But you really need to make sure that if somebody's not feeling fulfilled, you examine those needs and you make a determination. Which ones do they value the most? And are the actions they're taking, even though it's producing a result, but if they value it more than the others, are they doing it to a higher standard? Are you holding them accountable to a higher standard in order that they feel that emotional fulfillment? So hopefully that all makes sense. Gonna end it up with one of my favorite sayings there by Jim Rohn. And again, it's all to do with our system: consistency. Success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And that's all there is to it. There's a science behind that. If you take certain actions on a consistent basis, certain disciplines, simple or difficult, do them consistently, and you practice those every day, you will produce a positive result. That's all there is to it. As simple or as difficult as it may seem, that's all we're doing here. We're taking a few simple disciplines and we're practicing them and incorporating them into our lives on a daily basis. So other than that, guys, as always, really appreciate it. Questions, comments, concerns, I'll be around for a while. Feel free to drop me a message. Always happy to hear from people. But other than that, we're going to wrap it up there. And I will see you all next week. All right. Thanks, guys. See you soon.